What's up guys, Sean here. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the WIHA Mini Buster. But first, I'm going to show you what I'm carrying, and that is my SPYDERCO Shaman. This is my favorite one right here, the Knife Joker exclusive in CPM Crewwear blade steel. I have a 17 degree per side edge on this bad boy. Screaming sharp, titanium carbon scales, titanium hardware, anodized by my buddy Angelo Suki. Sukiu. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, so sorry if I slaughtered that. And Lynch Northwest titanium deep carry clip. Awesome knife, and it sounds really cool with these titanium scales. I love the sound of it now. Might be my favorite part about the whole knife. Alright, let's get into this. So, the WIHA Mini Buster. This is obviously manufactured by WIHA Knives. They are the luxury premium line of Civivi knives. So, same company, but this is their high-end line. We have a titanium handle. We have a 20 CV blade, and looks to be it's a Warncliffe in my opinion. Some people might say it's a sheep's foot. Sometimes it's hard to really distinguish between the two, but you know, we can just simplify it and say we have a straight edge blade. So yeah, it's a frame lock, titanium frame lock, on bearings, drop shut, super smooth action, nice snappy detent. Blade really flies out. Now the flipper tab, it is not good. You can't really push button it at all. You have to light switch it, and it is a little slick, but the blade does really fly out. So this is another one of the knives that was sent to me from Eugene. This is the third one out of 4 that I sharpened and am reviewing. So I put a 20 degrees per side edge on this. I believe I finished it at 1500 grit with the KME Gold Series diamond plates. And I did a little bit of stropping. Very sharp edge. I wanted to keep this close to factory because I believe this one might be for sale. So wanted to keep it kind of factory looking, but edge turned out really good, sharpened up pretty good. And let's get into my ratings. So first category, ergonomics, we get a 4 out of 5. Now there's not anything inherently horrible about these ergonomics, but it just doesn't feel the greatest for me personally. And I think that has to do with there's a lot of angles to this knife, a lot of edges to the surface of it, and it just doesn't feel that good in my hand. Now the shape of the handle feels alright. The pocket clip doesn't really dig into my hand too much. I can squeeze it pretty tight and it doesn't feel too bad, but it also feels like it wouldn't really, it's not exceptionally comfortable either. We have some well spaced out, really kind of low jimping, not cut deep at all. Then we have a weird little big notch right there, and your thumb can kind of rest right there. It feels alright, kind of weird, honestly. Not really sure why they did it that way, but you know, it's not bad. Moving on to the clip, we also get a 4 out of 5. This is a milled titanium clip right here, and the reason I deducted a point is because, you hear that? That is because this titanium is either too thin to the point where it has actually bent a little bit, just from, I guess it couldn't handle the tension going in and out of pocket. I don't know if the owner intentionally pulled up on it and tried to relieve some of the tension to help it go in and out of pocket easier. The clip functions fine. It goes in and out of pocket just fine. Seems to still have decent retention, so it's not a horrible clip. Doesn't have any side to side flex to it, so nice, pretty sturdy clip. I don't like the that, so I don't know. And you do feel it when you're gripping the knife tight. It doesn't really poke your hand too bad to where it's really uncomfortable, but it also doesn't feel extremely comfortable. Like I said, moving on to the carry. For carry, it gets a 5 out of 5. This knife carries really well. Folded up, nice slim profile. The flipper tab doesn't stick out very far, so it's pretty slim in pocket. You can fit other stuff in your pocket if you choose to. I usually don't put anything else in my pockets that have knives in them, so that I don't scratch up my knife or anything else that I'm putting into my pocket against the knife. You do have a full titanium backspacer, which is nice, and that will keep any change or anything in your pocket from going through the back construction of this knife and hitting your edge, because anything goes through there, slides through there, and starts hitting your edge, you can get some chips or rolls in your edge, and nobody likes that. So no need for any extra unnecessary wear and tear on your edge that is not gotten from cutting. So moving on, the hardware, we get a 5 out of 5. They really did good with the hardware on this. Check this out. 2 screws. We have a T10. I think they both might be T10. Let me check. So this is my WIHA TORX driver. I got a set of these. You get a set of 6 with all the sizes that you will need for knives, anywhere from T6 to T15. I believe it's like $30. I have the link in the description of every YouTube video. I highly recommend these TORX drivers. I've been using them for a long time now. These are the original set, and they still work excellent. They fit nice and tight in the TORX head screws without any play, so they don't mark up your screws, and they're nice hardened steel, so you're not going to be stripping out any screws or wearing out this tip. So let's go ahead and check it. Alright, so looks like that's a T8. Go ahead and double check. Okay, so it's a T8. Check this out. T8 back here. Only 2 screws, both T8. Same thing on this side. And then, nice. Also T8 for the pocket clip. All the same size, and none of them are T6. So that is awesome. Only 4 screws plus 1 clip screw. You don't see that very often. That I would give extra points if that was a thing, but it would throw off the grades for the other knives that I've reviewed. So I'm trying to kind of keep them all on the same grading scale. Ooh. All right, moving on. The aesthetic of the knife. This is where it lost some major points. For the aesthetic of this knife, I gave it a 2 out of 5. Something about it just reminds me of like a gas station knife, or like a M-Tech, or you know, like the cheap Smith and Wesson knives that you get at AutoZone or, you know, wherever. It just doesn't, it, don't get me wrong, it is a quality knife, but it looks like it could easily be mistaken for one of the wannabes. And you know, if you think this knife looks cool, don't let my opinion sway you, because I think this is a very nice knife. I'm just giving you my honest opinion, my honest take on it. This knife just does not really look attractive to me. The only thing attractive about it, in my opinion, is the blade. I think they did a good job with the blade. The blade looks good. I like the curves of the handle, but I don't like the way they did this cutout and just the kind of futuristic look they went for. Just isn't my style. So, you know, that might just be a personal thing with me. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think about it down in the comments. Moving on, for the price, I gave it a 3 out of 5. I gotta double check on the price, but I believe this is close to $300, and I was expecting it to be closer to $200. You know, and guys, don't take any of these scores too literal, or don't take offense to them. This is just my opinion, and this is based off my experience with all the knives that I have owned or handled, and their values and their construction and tolerances and fit and finish and everything about them. And you know, this compared to other knives on the market and what you're getting for your money, all of that compounded together, that's how I come to these conclusions. So this is just my thoughts. I, you know, if you really like this knife, you know, you can go ahead and buy it. I'm not saying that I don't recommend it, but at $300 you have a lot of options. So it's just hard for me to say, you know, if you have $300 to spend on a knife, this is the one to get. You know, it might be if it suits you perfectly, but for me, that's just not the case. And this is manufactured in China, so got to take that into consideration, because it costs far less to manufacture in China than it does inside the USA. So, you know, I went over this a little bit in the Penna review. That knife goes for $300, and honestly, I'd feel more comfortable spending $300 on that knife, because there was a little bit more to it materials wise. You know, titanium and 20CV is premium, but that had exotic dark matter carbon fiber scales, and you know, it was a rare one. I think there was only 20 of them made and stuff. So a lot of different things come into play. I think this, in my opinion, I think, you know, closer to the 200 mark would be reasonable, but you know, that's just my opinion. Moving on, fit and finish, I gave this a 4 out of 5. Now, the fit and finish is pretty good, but I don't really like how the backspacer sticks up like this, and then you just have a notch right here in the center. Kind of acts like a jimp, but it's in an odd space, and it's kind of rounded, like the edges of it are kind of smoothed over, so it isn't serving any purpose. I wish they would have just made the backspacer, you know, sit flush the whole way instead of sitting up. And then if they insisted on having this sit up above the scale, they should have done either have this same groove, that same pattern along the whole thing, or have this pattern for half, the back half of it, or just have it all plain. I don't understand why they did that. So It doesn't have any inlays or anything like that to be able to, see how it sits and if you can feel any gaps, um, in between anything. But, fit and finish seems pretty decent. The centering is perfect. No blade play, no up and down, no side to side. So, it just doesn't really feel good in hand. So I don't know if, I guess that just goes to ergos. But the clip deal, that's really one of the other issues. I don't know if they made this too thin or if they're using cheaper or poorly made titanium, and that is affecting the strength of the titanium. But yeah, one way or another, I feel that is an issue. So that's that. For acoustics, it gets a 4 out of 5, which is being generous because it doesn't have a particularly cool sound, but it is kind of unique. I can't think of any other knives that have the same exact sound, and it's just like a snappy sound. It doesn't sound cheap, just simple and snappy and clean. So there's that. For lockup, we get a 5 out of 5. Locks up rock solid. No lock stick. Lock bar access, it gets a 4 out of 5. Now, as you can see, the lock side is not raised up at all in relation to the show side. There is no jimping. There is no relief. And it's a pretty narrow gap in between here. So, just like on some of the other knives that I've reviewed, I don't have an issue accessing it or disengaging it, but I can see that being a potential issue for somebody if you do have fat thumbs. Moving on, the edge, I gave it a 2.5 for the factory edge because it was dull as a butter knife, and it was sharpened at a really high angle, which I felt like was a poor choice for the edge angle. And it took a while to get this thing sharp. For the blade, I gave it a 5 out of 5. I like this blade shape. I like the blade grind. I like the stonewash finish. Good blade steel choice. All in all, I think they did good with the blade. For the handle, I gave it a 4 out of 5. The handle it functions well. I have just enough room for all 4 fingers to fit perfectly on there. The inside of my hand, I don't have the butt of the knife digging into my hand. It has just enough knife that I have handles sitting comfortably against the back of my palm, so you still have that decent leverage, and under pressure you don't feel the butt of the knife digging into your hand. So I think they did well with that. For centering, perfect 5 out of 5. Cutting, perfect 5 out of 5. Once you do put a proper edge on this is a fairly slicey blade. The only thing they could have done to make it even better would be a hollow grind, because they decided to go with a flat grind. But it does come down decently thin behind the edge. I didn't mic it, but if I had to guess, I would say it's probably between 15 and 18 thousandths behind the edge. Probably closer to 15. With this being 20 degrees per side and how small that bevel is, that's why I say that and give that estimate. So yeah, and it slices like a champ. So good job with that. For the materials, it gets a 5 out of 5 because these are premium materials. We have titanium handle, titanium backspacer, 20 CV blade. For the fidget factor, it gets a 4 out of 5. This is because this is because of this flipper tab and the fact that it's not really comfortable and you don't really have much grip on it, and I find it just a unnatural feel. I find myself kind of fumbling around to get on it just right because of how small it is and not having really any distinctive place that it feels natural for your finger to lay on. It doesn't have a hot spot if you are doing it strictly like a light switch, but if you do try to push button this, it does feel extremely uncomfortable. And I don't think, oh, all right, so you would have to make sure you're not on this lock bar at all. And yeah, it doesn't function well at all as a push button, but light switching it works fine. And that does happen to be the only, well, I just lied. I can reverse flick it by putting the meat of my finger against the blade and just flicking. Oh, try to get a good view for you guys. I have to bend over like upside down to get this angle. Alright, so I'm pinching it. Oh. It's getting a little sweaty. But yeah. Alright, so cool. You can reverse flick it. Thumb flick ain't gonna happen. But there is enough blade sticking out that you can reverse flick as long as you can get a grip on it with your finger. Once it starts to get slick, if your hand's sweaty or whatever, you're gonna have an issue with that. So 4 out of 5 on the fidget. For the design, it gets a 4 out of 5. I think overall it is a good design. It doesn't personally check all the boxes for me, but you know, that's why we have options. So I'm sure there's somebody out there that sees this and thinks this might be the perfect knife for them, and you know what? They might be right. For the value, I gave it a 3 out of 5, and that is with the price taken into consideration, because you can get a lot for $300. At $300 range, that puts you in the market for all kinds of knives, a huge variety. So there's a ton of options at $300, and you know, you just might want to shop around a little bit and see what other options are out there for that price. My favorite knife for the $300 range and most recommendable would be the Zero Tolerance 0562 Ti. That's one of my all-time favorite knives, and I'll be doing a full review on that coming up eventually. But in the meantime, I do have other videos on that knife, so you just got to go back and look through my videos if you want to check that out. But that's what I would get with $300. And I forgot to mention the action. For the action category, I gave it a 4 out of 5. This does have a good action. Nice snappy detent. It is drop shut. The only reason it lost a point really is because I'm not a huge fan of this flipper tab, and that makes it not so enjoyable to deploy. Now, as long as you have dry hands and there's nothing on the blade, you should be able to reverse flick this if you are really good at reverse flicking, but you know, not everybody can reverse flick, so there's that. And we have a total score of 81 points out of 100, so that is a B grade. Not bad at all. If this is a knife that you are interested in and you like the looks of it and you like flippers, and say you have a thing for smaller flipper tabs over larger flipper tabs, this knife might be perfect for you. It's definitely a nice knife. You know, like I said before, all my ratings are based strictly off my experiences and my own opinion, and I try to grade as accurately and unbiasedly as possible. You know, as far as the unbiased thing goes, of course, you know, that is kind of impossible to be 100% unbiased, but that's why I always tell you guys, these are my opinions and you do not have to agree. So, hope you guys enjoyed this review. Thank you guys for watching. I love you guys. Jesus loves you. Stay tuned, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.